Coffee used to be a mundane morning necessity, a simple utilitarian delivery mechanism for caffeine intended to jumpstart the workforce into a semi-consciousness. But somewhere along the line, we decided that wasn't enough. We traded our sanity for a specialty coffee reality that functions less like a culinary interest and more like a high-control secular religion. It's a paradox of scientific rigor and financial masochism. You're doing high-stakes chemistry to the second decimal point just to feel awake. This is the trap. It begins with the innocent desire for a cup of coffee marginally better than the one your office Keurig spits out. It ends with you chasing a mythical, once-in-a-lifetime godshot that probably doesn't even exist. Today we are dissecting the behavior induced by the bean, the endless loop of optimization, the performative social signaling, and the pursuit of objective flavor clarity. Welcome to the cult. Most of us fell into this because of a simple search for the best cheap coffee grinder. Suddenly, the YouTube algorithm delivers the high priest James Hoffmann, whose soft-spoken British wisdom becomes your primary canon. You start seeing James Hoffmann memes and think you're a part of a fun community, not realizing you're being systematically recruited into a gear-obsessed cult. This soft radicalization is a total bullshit trap designed to make you fear things you never knew existed. You're no longer just brewing, you're managing thermal loss and carefully digging wells in your grounds like you're performing surgery on a bean. You start timing your drawdown with the intensity of a bomb squad, convinced that your morning cup is a failure if the physics aren't exactly right. The foundational lie we tell our spouses is that this hobby saves money. You buy a $50 blade grinder to save on lattes, and Reddit immediately calls it a war crime because your boulders and fines make the extraction undrinkable swill. You end up totally screwed when you realize you need a $500 upgrade just to reach a baseline standard of quality. Just when you think you've reached a plateau, figures like Lance Hedrick arrive to turn your kitchen into a complete. Now you're studying particle distribution charts and slow-feeding beans into a machine like you're nurturing a delicate bird. It is a total expensive descent into a rabbit hole that has no bottom. Stage 1, the illusion of competence. You use a grocery store dark roast until the internet informs you that your beans are stale and your equipment is trash. So you crawl into Stage 2, the YouTuber standard. You buy a Baratza Encore, a V60, and start weighing beans to the 0.1 gram, convinced you've reached the peak of value, until you notice muddy flavors. Welcome to Stage 3, prosumer purgatory, where you spend $700 on a niche zero just to feel something. This stage is a total shit show of obsession. You spend your weekends 3D printing parts to reduce retention and coloring your burrs with whiteboard markers to check for alignment. You aren't a coffee drinker, you're an unpaid technician for a machine that cost more than your rent. Stage 4, unobtainium. You are now in a spacesuit, refreshing your browser at 3 a.m. for a pre-order lottery just for the privilege of committing financial on a $4,000 Weber EG1. You've acquired a status symbol totem that acts as a shield against criticism, even if you still can't reliably tell a light roast from a hole in the ground. We tell our spouses this is the endgame, a pathetic lie told to justify a machine that will be replaced by version 2 in 6 months. You look like a complete dumbass because there is no finality in this cult. There is only the next revision, the next burr geometry, and the next $1,000 disappearing into the void.
To maintain exclusivity, we've developed a lexicon of total bollocks that frames simple physics as a hard science. RDT, spraying a mist of water onto expensive grinders because you're terrified of static electricity. It's a ritual where you risk short-circuiting your gear just to keep your counters slightly cleaner. WDT, stirring grounds with needles because apparently gravity isn't trustworthy anymore. It's adult playtime in a sandbox for fuckwits who think they're performing open-heart surgery on an espresso puck. TDS, a digital reading from a $300 refractometer that tells you if you're allowed to enjoy the drink or if you failed the math test. Its financials paid that much for a machine to tell you what your tongue already knows. Channeling, the invisible boogeyman of extraction, a goddamn ghost in the machine that is always your fault and never the beans. Slow feeding, adding beans one by one to trick the physics of particle distribution. All it really does is make you look like a complete asshat while tripling your prep time.
Transitioning from drinking to practicing coffee turns every social encounter into an awkward lecture that makes you look like a total wanker. You become the person who brings a $350 Commandante to the break room, ostentatiously grinding while colleagues use the communal pot. It's a display of performative superiority that leaves your coworkers pissed off. The dating scene becomes a literal hell. You can't just meet at a Starbucks, you have to vet the shop for extraction techniques and single-origin beans. To your date, you look like a high-maintenance ass clown who is one order away from mansplaining washed processing. Your kitchen now looks like a dental surgery suite. Counters are cluttered with scales and needles that scatter grounds everywhere. When the sound of high-speed burrs at 6 a.m. leads to domestic conflict, you realize your piss-poor communication is the only thing being extracted. We resort to genuine financial infidelity to keep the dream alive. You tell your partner that $3,000 decent espresso machine was on sale for $500 just to soften the blow. Its financial set has led to documented cases of divorce once spouses realized 20 grand vanished into coffee gear. You absolute bastard.
We maintain cohesion through internal holy wars over variables no human tongue can taste. The flat versus conical burr debate is a total shit show of identity-based conflict. One faction screams for texture while the other chases clarity, even though randomized tests prove most of us dumb fucks can't tell the difference. Then there's the blind shaker heresy. We spend hours on Reddit arguing over horizontal versus vertical shaking like absolute fuckwits. Traditionalists are clinging to paper rinsing ceremonies even after Hoffmann declared the taste difference is negligible. It's a total clusterfuck of ritual where we argue about wet cardboard smells just to feel superior. The final frontier is the water chemistry war. Hardcore DIYers titrate magnesium and baking soda with aquarium test kits to create Ray water. We treat a 5 ppm difference in hardness like a goddamn life-or-death dose. We aren't making coffee, we're performing chemistry for the sake of the cult.
To resolve the cognitive dissonance, we perform mental gymnastics viewing a $4,000 grinder as a goddamn asset class. We convince ourselves we're just parking funds in hardware that holds its value, which is absolute bullshit since we're really just hiding our spending habits. The buy it for life fallacy. We claim this is the final piece of gear we will ever need while secretly browsing r/coffeeswap for version 3. Even a pristine machine becomes a piece of crap the second a new burr geometry is announced. We even descend into the DIY savings delusion, working for pennies an hour mixing chemicals to save 12 cents on a mineral packet. This obsessive shit show often leads to genuine relational ruin. We aren't saving money, we're performing a high-cost clusterfuck.
Every cult has its distinct subtribes of fuckwits. The alchemist is a data nerd who treats brewing as a lab experiment. They log barometric pressure in a spreadsheet and will dump a shot if the flow rate is off by a single milliliter. The gearhead hedonist has far more money than sense. This ass clown drops 10 grand on a La Marzocco for the status symbol, then posts rate my setup for validation. They look like a total dumbass asking, why is my coffee sour? When they own professional gear they have zero intention of learning to use. The ascetic purist thinks electricity is the enemy of the coffee's soul. They suffer through the hell of manual grinding for 5 minutes until their wrist is on the verge of snapping, all while claiming it's meditative. Total bollocks meant to make them feel superior to anyone who uses a motor. The Hoffmann disciple is a total shit-for-brains fanboy who lacks an independent thought. If the high priest James says don't rinse, they stop instantly and preach the new truth. This bastard will pivot their entire personality based on whatever James reviewed last week.
You eventually reach the sifter's regret, standing over a sink, shaking coffee through a strainer like you're panning for gold. You watch 20% of your expensive beans fall into the drain as waste, all because some guy promised clarity. It's a ritual that makes you ask what you're doing with your life. Then comes the ick, the moment you realize you're performing a goddamn chemistry titration at 7 a.m. just to wake up. You're mixing baking soda into distilled water like you're Breaking Bad instead of making breakfast. You look like a total dumbass while your family stares in silent judgment. The marker test, disassembling a $2,000 machine to draw on the burrs with a Sharpie, shimming precision steel with kitchen foil. It's a total clusterfuck. You're wasting your life trying to fix a micron of misalignment on a piece of shit tool that was supposed to be your endgame. The ultimate irony is that the only successful people are the ones who stop chasing gear, unsubscribe, and just drink the coffee. We spend thousands and get pissed off over variables no one can taste, all for a cup of brown liquid that will be cold in 10 minutes. It's a total drain on your soul. Enjoy the descent.